right, here we are again. Got a little bit of phlegm. A lot of bit of allergies.
I was going to say the trees just ejaculated everything they had this weekend.
Oh, they hate me, dude. They hate me so much.
I have a yellow car. It was black 2 weeks ago, but it's yellow now.
Yeah, I went to the car wash yesterday and immediately regretted the decision. I was like, why did I just spend that money? Because it definitely isn't worth it.
You mean the Pollen Reclamation Center?
Yes. Wash it into the drain so that it may live again.
Yeah.
But pollinated cars and irritated eyes aside, welcome back to Outside the Cinema, your weekly source for cult movie discussion. We are your hosts. I'm Bill, that is Chris, and we are here to talk about cult films, which we do almost every week.
Yeah.
Once in a great while, you'll get a repeat, but overall, it does not happen often. Lucky for you.
Yeah.
This week on the show, we are doing 2 Patreon picks. And of course, I don't have the patrons' information in front of me, and I've already got everything set to go. So
right.
You know who you are. We mentioned you last week. But he wanted us to do 2 of the Yokai monster movies, which we had actually covered, I think, all 3 of them maybe, or two of them. I don't know. Way back in OTC BC.
Yeah.
Those of you that might not remember what OTC BC is Outside the Cinema Before Chris, when there was another host. But I didn't remember them really much. I remember not hating them, which I guess is usually probably the best part of something like that. Maybe not the best, but better than being like, oh man, those movies.
Yeah.
But I didn't remember anything about them, so I figured, well, we'll cover them.
Why not? I've never seen them.
If you want us to cover movies for you, join the Patreon. We got a nice little list going on where people have sent some stuff. We got to track down some Australian flicks. And head over to patreon.com/outside the cinema. $5 a month. Pay for it all up front. Pay for it once now. Save 16%. 16% off your yearly membership. We keep talking about commentaries. They're going to happen. But you know what?
Yeah.
If you're a member, you have access to an entire season of commentaries that we did called Playing with the Boys. That's in the archives.
Yeah.
There's a folder for it and everything. It's like, I think we did what we do, eight episodes or something like that.
I
Chris
don't
is
remember.
on most of them.
There were a lot. There were more
Chris
than I
is on
thought.
most of them. Yeah, and then Mel and I did a 2-part one. We did Showgirls, and we had to break it into 2 episodes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough to get. So tough to get through. I think Josh Gravel was on one with us. Joe.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds
Joe
familiar.
Yeah, so they're there, and I think people forget that they're there. So, I mean, I guess eventually I could probably start to release some of that stuff onto the Patreon feed so that people don't have to dig it out.
True.
Of the thing. And if it goes in the Patreon feed, it doesn't go out publicly anyway, and you still are the only people that have access to it, and it's still just as special.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just make it easier that way. Yeah. Anyway, so those are there. Patreon.com/outside the cinema. All the money we generate on that Patreon goes back into keeping the show on the air, pays for equipment fees, pays for our hosting. Man. Excuse me. Our hosting services, equipment in the studio, all that stuff goes right back in. So if you like to support independent podcasting, small businesses, all of that stuff, that's an excellent way to do it. Yeah. As we said, I said to Chris before we went on the air, not a whole heck of a lot stuff going on, so we can probably just get right into this.
I did have one thing that I want maybe the listeners to think about. With Evil Dead Rise having been out, I would like to float the theory that the Evil Dead series is the strongest franchise horror with good movies in it. I don't think there's any weak ones, except the first one.
The first one would be the weakest. Yeah. I would agree there.
Yeah, but every one of them, even the TV show, kind of finds its own genre cult niche and just kind of embraces it. I was really skeptical about Rise being in a not in a forest. But I hate the word lore, but the expansion of the lore that that was my favorite thing about the Hellraiser sequel, reboot, whatever we want to call that. Just smartly expanding on how things are, without negating anything that came before it, actually making it inclusive was really interesting. I recommend Evil Dead Rise.
I think one of the reasons why the Evil Dead franchise is as strong as it is because they're not pumping out a shitload of content with it.
Just DVD versions.
Well, yeah, you can, if you want to have 37 different physical versions of Evil Dead 2, be my guest. But overall, you got the first two films, and then there was an extended break until they did Army of Darkness,
right, which was in the 90s.
And then after Army of Darkness, it was 30 years
till the remake, sort of
the remake, right? Yeah. Maybe not 30, but no, probably 20 years another 20. Or so to the remake.
That was 2013, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got a handful of years until the TV series. Right. And now the TV series has been off the air for 4 or 5 years, and now there's the movie.
Yeah. Yes, so another I think the 10 years between theatrical releases.
Yeah, they're not pumping out one thing every year. Yeah. So I think that has a lot to do with it. If you look at a lot of those franchises that got weak, it was because there was a new sequel every single year.
And we'll hear about one of those today from Joe.
We will. That is
garbage.
Speaking of garbage, actually, that's not true. The Yokai monsters.
Yeah.
So these 3 films, there's 3 films. We're only covering 2 of them today. But they were made as a trilogy in the late 60s. The first one, which we are covering, is 100 Monsters. But it's known in the collective Yokai Monsters series. So if you look them up on IMDb, it's listed Yokai Monsters, _ 100 Monsters. There was a new one of these that came out a few years ago that was an homage, a reboot, a remake, not really a remake, but Takashi Miike, of course, which is a bizarre part. Get out of here. That is not your salami. That's my salami. Sorry. Dog thinks he can eat my salami. Anyway, Takashi Miike, obviously best known as an extreme Asian director, did a Yokai Monsters movie a few years ago. Which is when I think we actually covered it, was because that was released.
Oh, okay.
So, and it was good. It was good. Very true to these films.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are local. So yokai means Japanese spirit, correct?
Yeah, more or less, pretty much. Yeah, but spirit,
okay,
not just ghost, like anything that like Shinto spirit kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, it wouldn't mean Japanese spirit because obviously it's the Japanese word for spirit. So it means spirit in Japanese.
Right. Well, no, I wasn't saying that. I mean, it's not just the ghosts from Fatal Frame. There's monsters. You got snake women, basically like background characters in Vampire Hunter D, whoever he had to fight in Ninja Scroll. Like you get those kind of characters, and some are bad and some are good.
Yeah. So the director Kimiyoshi Yasuda, probably best known as the director of the Zatoichi movies.
Oh, okay.
The one-armed swordsman, blind swordsman. He did a whole bunch of those, and then he did these Yokai Monsters movies. So I do have a trailer here. Let's give it a whirl. Okay. Nope, it's going to do an ad.
Circus,
no, it's going to do an ad first. I had it all set to go. I should have just left it. But as soon as I paused it and rewound it to the beginning, it was like, "Hey, we're going to send now. We're going to make you pay." All right, here we go.
こうなりゃこっちだって腹をくくってやる。潰せるもんなら潰してみな。ちっけー。
妖怪のたたり？たけたこと。確かにこの目で。
ぞっと身の毛がそう受け立ちました。そこにはよほど苦しんで死んだと見えまして、歯を食いしばり土毛色になった男の首。
おのれ妖怪。
出た！妖怪だ！
おのれ。
All right. Hopefully that came through. I was looking at the thing. No, stop. And I didn't see it registering. So for some reason, I have to edit that out. I'll edit it out. But all right. The Yokai Monsters, 100 Monsters, directed by Kiyoshi Yusada, written by Tetsuro Roshida, starring a bunch of Japanese actors that if you're really familiar with Japanese cinema from this time period, you'll recognize some faces. But it's a very simple story.
Right. Before that, I want to say last week I complained that if there wasn't 100 monsters in this, I was going to riot, right? And I used my Google Translate. I used the camera on the app. And what the title of this movie actually is 100 Tales of Yokai. So it's like 1001 Arabian. It's like, okay, you have 100 stories? Fine, you can fake telling 100 stories. I am all for that. So the movie was sitting well with me after I read that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I mean, the story is very simple. You have a town magistrate that basically is greedy, and he's going to take everybody's land.
They're gonna knock down the rec center?
Pretty much. Yeah. The tenement, as he calls it in the film.
Yes.
But yeah, it's actually a quite simple story, almost painfully simple for what they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So you have, a bunch of characters. You have the one lead guy who is, was it Yasoro, who is like the one guy from the tenement that basically is kind of looking at what's going on.
Right.
No, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say it's an anthology, and that's the wraparound part, really, because the other guy tells stories at some point. So it's not all of the stories aren't in the same narrative. Basically, is what I was getting at.
Right, but it's not an anthology movie in terms of like here's 5 different stories to watch. It's still a straight narrative film, but he tells the stories and shows there's one. Well, they really only show you one.
Yeah. It's kind of a cop out, but I get it
for sure. But so the whole thing is basically like based on the fact that like you have this greedy magistrate.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the less fortunate people that don't have any other place to go. And then the monsters show up.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's basically like evildoers beware.
Yeah, there's monsters watching our village. Okay. This didn't impress me at all, honestly.
It's what's the word I want to use? I know that this was kind of a thing that because like monster movies like Godzilla and things like that were doing so well that this was like they wanted to use like, and I know that most of the yokai are based on actual like folklore and spirits and stuff, which is interesting. And when you start to see the monsters, it's a mix of like some like animation stuff, puppets, guys in costumes.
Yeah, a lot of it is
super.
It looks like the Japanese mascot idea, culture, whatever you want for each town and prefecture. It seems like it came out of almost like having yokai protect your village kind of thing. Because a Japanese mascot can be a cat apple, it can be a refrigerator, it can be ramen, or it can look like John Oliver, as we've all found out. So there's no like limits on what it could be. So I get that. That part I was okay with, but I watched this second, which may have influenced how I saw this one.
Yeah, this is the first in the trilogy.
Oh.
And then Spook Warfare, I believe, is the second one.
Okay.
But they don't. The thing is, they don't have an ongoing narrative between the three of them.
No, the only thing I can see this being useful for is to introduce you to the idea of them.
Right. Because you have a bunch of the things that's interesting, and we'll kind of talk about this when we get into the other one, is how, like, despite this being like related, it's not all of the same monsters, and some of them aren't introduced. And actually, I think now I'm thinking about it, I think Spook Warfare is actually the third.
Okay. That would make sense with everything that happens. Yeah.
Yes. So, but the thing with this is it's light on your storytelling, despite, 100 Tales of Yokai. There's not like, so the magistrate comes in and is basically like, hey, we're taking everything. You have a certain amount of time before we knock down the tenement. And then they go back to the magistrate and they have an old wise man come in and tells the 100 Tales of Yokai to everyone. And there's this whole like ceremony with it, whereas like he'll tell a story and then they blow out one candle. And so they have one final candle remaining. And he tells these stories, and he tells one specific story about their town or their, township or village or whatever it is. And he tells a story about these two fishermen that go to this fishing pond that is posted to not fish in, do not fish here, do not hunt here. And they're two, what they keep calling them.
They were called masterless samurai. They didn't necessarily call them Ronin. I don't know if that was a translation. I don't know if Ronin is just like a westernized thing, a word kind of thing from there. I don't know. But yeah, they said masterless samurai.
So they're down there fishing. An old monk comes up to them and is like, hey, don't fish here. And they're basically like, why?
Yeah.
And he's like, you'll be cursed. If you fish there and you take anything out of there, you'll be cursed.
Yep. He is the first, it's got a death curse guy in movie history there.
And he's like, hey, just don't do it. And they're like, whatever, old man.
Yep. They go tell him to fuck off.
Yeah, they go back to fishing. And then he's still standing there, and they're like, what are you still doing here? They're like, get out of here, or I will kill you.
Yeah, they go from 0 to, capital murder.
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah. And so he just kind of saunters himself away. They catch a fish, and they're like, all right, great. We got this fish. And so as they go to leave, you hear a voice, leave it. And did you say that? I didn't say that. All right. And they start walking away. Then you leave it. Hey, that wasn't me. It wasn't me either. Yeah. Well, let's get out of here. Like that's, and then
we're talking
storm clouds come in.
Levels of zoinks.
Yeah. Storm clouds come in. Lightning strikes down.
Yeah.
And then we fast forward to them coming back to their hut. They come in, they, as is, 1960s Japan, they boss the woman around or like, get us some sake, make this food, blah, blah, blah. And then the monsters start to show up and one of the cooler monsters is the woman, with the long neck.
Yeah.
She was called the Rokarubi, I think is what it was. And, she's this beautiful Japanese woman until her neck starts to extend.
Yeah. Just like Vampire Hunter D had that the snake woman kind of
yes
ambush.
Yes.
Yep.
So they're like, what the hell's going on? And they're like, oh, monsters.
Yeah.
And they end up dying.
Of course.
They were struck by lightning and were dead. But they saw all of this other stuff before they entered the spirit realm. Or
right. So did they die from the curse? Is that, storytelling I like that they place it that way.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So then things get weird at the place because the last candle goes out and they're all like, "Oh, the candle! Oh no!" Like,
yeah.
And then they just go back to doing what they're gonna do. And there's a long stretch in this where they're just basically like bossing each other around, and like the magistrate's meeting with this person, and then they're like, "No, please don't knock down our house."
This is more boring than the human stuff in like Showa era Godzilla movies.
Yeah, it really is. It really is because there's not moving a story along.
Not at
and
all.
I don't know, maybe I missed it. But like, was there a point where all of a sudden, like I know, so the son of the magistrate is got some mental issues. He's developmentally challenged, and he's a grown man but acts like a child. And he says that.
Yeah.
My son, he's a grown man but he still has the mind of a child, and
right.
He's quite mean. He's quite mean to him. So he draws one of the monsters, and then like that's when they start to show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the monster that he drew is in both films.
It's so far the strangest one to me.
And let's be honest, it's so stupid. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, if you're a writer in feudal Japan and you're like, I have no more goddamn ideas to make monsters with, what will I do now that I have run out of inspiration for yokai? I guess I'll go for a walk. Take your umbrella. Yeah, no, that's just like, it's like Pokemon. It's like, think of a word that you can associate to an animal now. Draw something cute. There you go. Pokemon.
Yeah. So this one he draws it, and it's literally a living umbrella.
Yeah. With a leg.
Literally.
Not with a post with a handle on the end of it. Yeah, just a leg.
It's bizarre. So it comes to life.
That kind of thing works for like Howl's Moving Castle when it's a scarecrow. That's fine. But to have a human leg with sandal and sock, I think. I don't know. But still. And it's got one eye, one nose, and its tongue is always out. So that makes it way worse.
Yeah. Some of the issues with the monsters is that like they didn't go very far in the they got the design. And they were like, cool, this monster is going to be this.
Yep.
And then they were like, I guess the eyes don't have to move. And I guess the mouth doesn't need to open, but it needs to wag its tail. All right, well, we'll just have not the tail, its tongue. Yeah. So we'll just have the tongue out the whole time.
Right.
Because we don't want to take the time to build an operational mouth on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're like, oh, this mask, the guy won't be able to see out of it. Oh, well, we'll make it have. We'll just make it no eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
It won't have eyes. It's fine.
We just won't have him move around a lot.
What's the idea? We need to have the scene where like this guy's gonna have a bunch of monsters coming at him. But I don't know. I'm out of ideas. I got one. Just make everybody not have a face. That's fine. Just no faces. No face.
Yeah, because then it's different characters, right?
Right, yeah. Just no face.
How Michael Bay can keep throwing Decepticons at Bumblebee.
Right. Just put a purple thing on their chest.
Yep, there you go.
What is it?
It doesn't matter. They all look the same. They're all bad guys. There you go. And have at it.
Look out for the Decepticon butter tray.
Yep.
It'll get you.
Yep.
So then it like I said a couple minutes ago, maybe I missed it. Maybe it just wasn't clear. But like, I don't know why all of a sudden all of the monsters started to show up. Was it because he summoned them by drawing them?
I'm going to go ahead and say, sure. His belief willed them into this dimension. Because at the end, all the movies end the same pretty much.
Yes.
And I don't even care. This isn't really even a spoiler because they're essentially like kid movies in a way, sort of like teenagery, maybe, because they're already like TV-14, which isn't PG-13, so that's anyway. So the two I have seen, all of the yokai do the very, very slow walk into the distance, fade away thing. So that they've been triumphant every time.
Yes.
So
it reminded me so much of what the hell was that that musical we watched? Was it The Apple?
Probably,
where like
yeah.
they just like ride the Cadillac off into the sky.
Oh.
Like
No, Grease 2 did that.
No. This was one where like you saw everybody like they were like leading them up and out. Like I think it was The Apple.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I don't remember much of that one anymore, except that I've seen it.
Yeah, there is a commentary episode of it.
Yeah,
on Playing with the Boys. So anyway, so yeah, and so they come and they right the wrongs.
Yeah,
and that's really it. There's definitely some interesting looking ones. In this film, it was a little bit more. They didn't go as hard.
No, it was very subdued.
In this one.
Yeah,
they go harder in the other one. But there's like, I mean, the long neck woman is cool, and then we talked about the umbrella guy.
Yeah.
But other than the two of them, they don't really feature
not in this
any
one,
of the
no.
monsters.
No. It's a lot of background guys, like background guy in a zombie movie where you can give him a latex pullover mask. And it's the right color, and he's got a distressed shirt, and he just won't lift his arms up too high. And that's fine.
Right.
But I mean, that's what you do to save money, you know? So why not? Which is why I think one of the characters in the other one, you would have expected the umbrella, since it's in at least two of them, to get more production value put into it, but it didn't. It went with, I'm assuming, the most popular one for the next movie. So we'll see, which is probably why that one came off as a better idea than these ones.
I guess. There was one other point I wanted to make about this one before we graded and talk about the other one, but now I'm drawing a blank. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. I'll just sorry. All right, Chris, do you recommend, what's your grade for 100 Monsters?
I am not going to recommend this. It seems it feels like a rough draft of a movie. It really needed to be, I don't know, just gone through like 4 or 5 more times, tighten it up, tell a cohesive story. Every few minutes they're introducing new characters, and they're very important to the story for 5 minutes, and it feels like somebody that didn't know how to wrote this, or at least edited the whole thing that way, because it's not what you would expect from a narrative film, and I didn't enjoy that. Costumes were absolutely fine because they're historic, and you know that they're in the place where you get those, so that worked. And so I'm gonna give it a C-. It's not awful,
C-,
but I would say if somebody is dead set on watching all 3 without having seen the other one, I would say watch this one last.
Even though it's the first film.
even though I haven't seen one of the 3, yes. Because I don't think this does anything to establish a mythology. You have to know about it going in. Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. So if you were in Japan, you would already know about it going in. How about that?
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so I'll give it a tepid recommend. If you're really into kaiju movies and like monster movies from this time period, then I would say give it a watch. It's very much of its time. I would say if you're a big Godzilla fan and just want to see something else that isn't giant kaijus, these yokai movies are could probably scratch that itch for you.
Yeah, they actually talk.
But the writing is lazy. It feels underdeveloped. I love the point that you made about how you bring in a character for 5 minutes and they're super important for the one scene that they're in, and then they're never heard from again. Yeah. Most of them are killed. That's the thing too, is these yokai monsters are the good guys, but they murder everybody.
Yeah.
So,
but they're doing it for the right reasons, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're only murdering the bad guys. So,
right.
It's thoroughly fine.
Yeah.
Historic, and you know, it's characters, the look, the feel definitely has all of that, but it's just not very good.
Yeah.
Just much like one of like the weaker Godzilla entries, like, you know, like you're like, it's still a Godzilla movie, but it's just not quite as good.
Yeah.
So I will give it a C- also. It doesn't do anything really wrong. It's just kind of lazy and underdeveloped.
Yep.
Yeah.
It feels like it was not a priority for the studio. Just right off the bat.
But apparently it made some money, so they made some sequels. One of those, original title, Yokai Daisenzo. On Shudder, it is titled as Spook Warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And then the actual title, when you go to IMDb, is The Great Yokai War.
Which I had heard of before this.
Yes. The Takashi Miike movie, I believe, is also under the title The Great Yokai War.
Yep.
But this one came out, it says 68, so I'm assuming maybe they were made together. I don't know. But here's a trailer. That's enough of that. Jesus Christ. The Great Yokai War, aka Spook Warfare. This is directed also again by this is a different director, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't have that page up.
Yeah, it is. It's a different director.
Okay.
I thought at the same time. This is Yoshiyuki Kuroda, who did Mirror Man, The Invisible Swordsman, Lone Wolf and Cub, and a number of other things. I thought they were all the same director. Well, I will start by saying that this one is inherently more interesting than the other one.
Yes. Absolutely.
Story is better. A Babylonian vampire comes to old Japan after being resurrected in a archaeological dig. Looked more like looting to me, but that's fine.
It's how the British Museum does archaeology.
It does.
They use
you found something cool? Give me it.
The 5-finger yoink. We know that as the Lenny.
So the vampire comes to old Japan, and he is opposed by an army of Japanese demons and ghosts that gather to battle him. So the film opens with kind of like some talk about the world and finding the old world, and we see these guys digging through a, I guess, sort of Egyptian style. I mean, they say and this thing says Babylonian, but like I don't ever remember that actually being mentioned in the film.
No, but it definitely, you get Middle Eastern country
for sure,
regardless, which fits the style of costume for the vampire, which was good. Because
the vampire is not. I mean, we're not talking Robert Pattinson here.
No. We're actually talking some variation, more or less, of Pazuzu from real Pazuzu statues.
Yeah, because he's kind of bird-like and
and he's got the like how the Mayans would sculpt the impression of feathers, not every individual feather. He's got that like scales on him. The head is rounded like Indonesian statues have, hats and stuff like that. So it definitely speaks to many different cultures invading the island. So
yes.
I just put that together, by the way. I don't know if that's true or not, but
no, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. So these guys are looting this tomb. They pull the sword out of him and release him, and then he flies to Japan.
Did X-Men Apocalypse rip this movie off? It totally did. It totally did. Okay. Everybody bands together to fight the one big bad guy. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
God damn you, X-Men.
So what is that click? Is that you that clicking?
Oh shit! No.
I thought it was me though. I thought about
no, but
all right.
It's me fidgeting because I
Nothing to see here.
No.
Nothing to see here.
Nope.
Everyone move on. So apparently the vampire then flies to Japan.
As you would.
Make that beeline there.
Yep.
He's
got to get the blood with the fish oil in it.
Yes, this is true. So we again fishing. The old man sends the daughter and the other man back to the house. He's going to finish cleaning up when darkness comes. This guy flies in, and the way he feeds is he uses his beak to bite people and then assumes their identity. So this vampire is about identity theft.
Yeah, it is. Actually, you know what? The whole thing goes through this. Yeah, it's about that's cultural. That's colonization. They turn you into them.
Ooh, Chris, you sound so smart.
I guess the pot wore off.
Oh no. Or you took too much.
Or not enough, Ralphie.
Right. So he's now taken this guy's identity.
Yeah, and the guy's a dick to start with, so.
Right, yeah. But what this movie does that the other one doesn't do is it immediately brings the monsters into this.
Yes. Thankfully.
So who's the first one we meet?
We get a Kappa, which is an evil water spirit.
This guy's adorable, though.
In the folklore, he's an evil water spirit. It says here as a menace is this heading. As water monsters, Kappa have been blamed for drownings and are often said to try to lure people into water and pull them in with their great skill at wrestling. They are sometimes said to take their victims for the purpose of drinking their blood, eating their livers, or gaining power by taking their shirikodama, a mythical ball, I am not kidding, said to contain the soul. Once again, I am not kidding, which is located, this is on the internet, inside, for real, the anus.
Sweet.
Kappa also have a dish or a bowl or a plate on their head that they have to keep water in or keep wet at all times.
Which comes into play in the film.
Yeah. But this Kappa is friendly. So...
Yes. And most of the yokai in this are presented as friendly because you have a big bad that they have to fight.
Right, the good and bad guys have to band together for this one, yeah.
Right. So you get some additional ones. You have a Futakichi Wona, which is a two-faced woman.
Oh yeah.
The Rokurubi comes back. That's the woman with the long neck again.
Yes.
There's also the umbrella returns, and the name of the umbrella was a Kase Obake. And then the Kappa we said.
The rock like mentor type character.
Yes. And then the guy with the like vase-like head.
And there's the television stomach dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch, yeah.
There's a gorilla with a TV for a head.
And everybody in the background had a half of ping pong balls in their eyes.
It did, man. So the Kappa basically can see that this guy is an evil demon or a vampire, so he tries to fight him and he can't. He then goes back to where all of the other spirits kind of like hang out, and he's basically, hey, there's this evil spirit, and they're like, whatever, man, you're full of shit. And he's like, no, really, and they don't believe him. So this guy starts taking everything over and starts, biting other people, and is just bad news. And eventually they believe him because they see it with their own eyes. Well, yeah. And then they have to band together to stop him.
Yeah. That's really what the whole, this is like the yokai end game. Really, it's the giant crossover.
Yeah. So, so the rest of the film from that point on is really just trying to protect the human children and protect the daughter and help get rid of this guy. The human characters are secondary in this. They're just kind of there
Yeah. I liked
some
it
story
that way.
along.
Yeah.
I did too. Because let's be honest, this is a fantasy children's type film.
Yeah.
With a few darker moments, but the it's definitely not that the first one was violent, but like it's toned down more in this one. This definitely feels more like kid friendly than the other one.
Right.
But they do a good job of like bringing these different monsters in, and they try different things to like rescue people, and then they try different things to try to defeat him, and they kind of keep going back and forth, and they eventually, obviously are able to do it. Like again, we're not creating anything new here. But it's a pretty good, pretty good costumes, I think. Yeah. Some of them are similar. Obviously, the friggin' umbrella is still there, and it just looks so silly bouncing around.
Yeah, I got to give them credit, though, at least for animating the arms on it. That was something. So it wasn't just an umbrella bouncing up and down. So, yeah. But the what's the kappa? That was at first I thought it was a terrible costume. Because it's the head and the hands and the feet and like Wrangler jeans. No. But then like he's got a half shell on his back, and his front is painted green, but then you look up what they look like, and aside from the bracelets he's got on to stop to cover up the line of the gloves to the skin, other than that, he's pretty much that's what they look like. And he is cute looking in a
dopey sort of way.
in a little better than Minya looking kind of way. Original,
because there's no eyelids, so the eyes are just always open and dead.
Yeah.
So, and like they would go back and forth side to side, but that was it.
And they did give him a decent personality. He was very animated. I can absolutely see how that would be the kids' favorites.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so, the film culminates in them getting the whole army of the spirits together to fight this guy and eventually overtake him. And it's very much a David and Goliath thing because he grows really tall and like they all like have to work together. And it's actually much better than the first. It's much better than the first one. This is the second one. This is the third one is called Along with Ghosts. So, but here's the thing. Like, there's really not a whole lot you can say about this. Like, it's better than the first one, for sure. More interesting to watch.
Yep.
Shot better development in the story. The big bad is far more interesting than Evil Town Magistrate. Ancient Babylonian vampire with a 3-foot cylindrical head is definitely more interesting than that guy.
Yeah.
But again, at the same time, there's really not a whole lot to say.
No, it's a simple kid family teen movie, whatever you want to call it. It's a very simple storyline to just show off the monsters. That's what you want. You want a little bit of something, and the little bit more that this has is that the characters have the ability to express themselves in a more complicated way than Godzilla and Mogira do, for instance.
Yeah, I did there's a scene where the samurai goes to an ancient medicine man or what would be like a witch doctor or something along those lines. And it's basically how do we get rid of the spirit? And they have a plan where he's like, oh, if you wear this charm, he won't be able to hurt you, and burn this candle and then do this. And you can hopefully, and that scene was pretty cool because it was working and then it stopped working. Right. And then the vampire guy basically takes the other dude out. And you're like, okay, well I'm like, there's more thought put into this other than just big monster.
Right.
Go.
Right. Yeah. And I like the fact that they can't touch the charms, that other people had to do it for them. And there was a lot of care put into that and the home shrine that was set up and all that to be authentic, which, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Those little details make a big difference. Yeah. If the first film had some of those details, I think it would have gone over a lot better.
Yeah. I also don't know how someone that grew up with that would rate the not realism, but you know what I mean.
Right.
How much it honors the source material, I guess.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's just grade it, man. I don't feel like there's a whole lot else.
Yeah, I got confused at the end there.
All right, Chris, do you recommend, what is your grade for The Great Yokai War or Yokai Monsters Spook Warfare.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking about the other one all of a sudden. I'm gonna recommend this. It was the first of the two that I watched, and that might be why I didn't like the other one as much as I thought I would. Because this one set a bar, which I thought was right in the middle. Like this is a yokai movie. This is what we do. This is a tokusatsu. We know Subaraya. We got it. We're good. And then the other one happened, and I'm like, did they lose the costumes or something? What's going on? Because it was just boring. So this one's fun. It's not great. It looks like a cheap home movie. It's at some points. But I'm gonna give it a C+ and a recommend.
Yeah,
because I enjoyed it. It was. All I got to say is, having been raised in Catholicism, we got the worst of all of the supernatural shit. Like, what do we got? Got a dude in a robe, right? Japanese have talking umbrellas and shit. Like, come on, river monsters that'll rip your liver out of your ass. Like, that's how you keep kids from drowning. And all you got to do to scare your kid is put a bowl in the river. It's right there. It's right there. You can see it. It'll get you. Ours are like so boring. I think that's why I'm jealous of Egyptian and Native American and all of that. Anyway,
that's fair.
That's my rating. It's C+ and a sure go ahead.
I'm gonna give it a sure go ahead too. Then, no, yeah, I'm recommending this one. It's like a legit recommend. It's the other one is very much a like, if you're into this, but I think anyone could watch this and get some enjoyment out of it. The monsters are strangely fascinating despite being very cheap in many ways. They're front and center in this, so you don't have to wait long to get to them. The story's much more well put together than the first one, and the big bad in this is way more interesting. The look of the vampire guy with like the giant head and the beak and like he can fly and then he can get really big.
But he had a good plan, you know?
Yeah. Like, his plan was take over the world.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And he probably could have done it.
One townsperson at a time.
He starts small. You don't want to strain a muscle.
Yeah. So I'll give it a C+.
Yeah.
I'm skirting with giving it a B-. I'll give it a B-. Yeah. And the other good thing about these films is they're short. They're like an hour and both of them were about an hour and 20 minutes.
That was a saving grace. If it was an hour and 45 minutes, the first one would have suffered way worse.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, Takashi Miike's Great Yokai War is like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
You know what, though? I would actually I'm going to give his a shot because I've seen the stuff he can make and it could be interesting.
Yeah, we know he's insane. So God knows what'll happen. So, all right. So there you have it. There are the two Yokai Monsters movies for this week. Moving on now to our good friend Joe, who I think, is this the last week? The last week of Scary Movie? Or is there another one after this?
I don't know how many there were.
I'm not sure
4.
either.
I thought there were 5.
All right. So, let's see what he has to say here.
Well, hello, Bill. Hello, Chris. And hello, OTC Nation. It's your boy Joe here. And, well, this week Bill took me to all over the fucking place. Bill made me watch the no longer on HBO Max, $3.99 to rent on Amazon Prime, Scary Movie 4.
Ugh.
I'm only 11 minutes into this, and let me tell you, the Writers Guild aren't the only ones about to go on strike. It's just so busy. For the last few years, I've used the Young Bucks and the flippy bullshit style of pro wrestling as an analogy for movies that just throw everything up on the screen without any care or concern for quality or context or, making sense. As the scary movies have gone on, the analogy gets more and more accurate. The first 2 scary movies were obviously a group effort, but with a direction and one overarching story that they were parodying. Once anybody named Wayans left after part 2, those movies became a quick, cheap product that someone who wears a tie to work organized. boy, does it fucking show. Side note, related to the wrestling thing, I watched a match recently from GCW, and El Hijo del Vikingo hit a Canadian destroyer off the motherfucking top rope onto the motherfucking ring apron.
Yep, I saw that.
And like
Nasty.
less than 20 seconds later, they were back up and moving on to the next spot. Great. Fantastic. Superb. You hit a fucking flipping pile driver from like 5 feet in the air onto legitimately the hardest part of the ring that I fucking promise you sucks to take a bump on. And it's not your finish or a death spot where you drag this guy's limp fucking corpse into the ring and maybe he kicks out at 2 7/8 and then you immediately go into your finish. Just outstanding work. What's your fucking finish then? Are you going to stick a grenade up his ass?
Are you
going to inject an air bubble into his bloodstream? Maybe just a shotgun blast to the face. I don't know. Can you tell I don't want to talk about this movie?
Yeah.
I went full on cornet there, and you have my apologies for it. The analogy stands, though, because in 11 minutes, they parody the first Saw movie, only a half decade late, with Shaq and Dr. Phil for some reason. They have a voiceover guy do some bullshit that leads into microscopic organisms dancing like they're on MTV Spring Break in 1994 to Baby Got Back. Charlie Sheen and Anna Faris do the opening to The Grudge, but also the 3 girls from that Playboy reality show where Hugh Hefner was dating girls young enough to be his granddaughter, and there were 3 of them. And then they also do the open to the War of the Worlds remake. And then they also do a Brokeback Mountain with Anthony Anderson and Kevin Hart. And that's literally in the first 11 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
However, and I have to say, God damn it, they got me with a joke. The Brokeback Mountain spoof ends with Anthony Anderson and Kevin Hart doing a duet to Lionel Richie's Hello. And I laughed. I laughed an actual, honest laugh.
Don't you hate yourself
Fuck
for
me,
it?
Right? The cocking a shovel bit from part 3 that Chris pointed out last week did get a good giggle out of me. But the Hello duet got a real fucking chuckle buster from me. And again, I'm genuinely sorry to all involved. They moved on at lightning speed to a parody of The Grudge, and full disclosure, I've never seen The Grudge. So I'm sure the satire will be nuanced and smart, but I won't be able to tell. Small mercies. I didn't remember Anna Faris being in these movies past part 3, but here she is. And honestly, can we just focus on her, please? Oh, wait. I used the word focus in regards to a scary movie. My bad. Is the baddie in The Grudge just a ghost kid with a froggy throat? Like,
yeah,
listen.
Sorta.
If I'm going around my house and there's creepy noises and like a thunderstorm outside, and then I just turn around and there's like a little kid there, I have no children, FYI. It's not like there should be a child in my house. That little ghost kid is going to get punched in the fucking face.
Agreed.
Will it work? Who knows? But fortune favors the bold, and you never know until you try. You never know until you try punching a ghost child in the face.
That's true.
They're also doing a War of the Worlds parody, and again, I didn't see it because I react to Tom Cruise the way some unfortunate children react to Peanuts. However, as with the ghost child, did anyone try punching the gigantic 10-story robot alien death machine in the face? Like, I get it, the degree of difficulty is raised, but let's exhaust all of our options here. Speaking of exhausted, I'm about 2/3 of the way through this and I am fucking done. We're just going back and forth in 5-minute increments between War of the Worlds and for some reason now The Village instead of The Grudge. I have seen The Village, unfortunately. To say that all but maybe 3 or 4 bits in this are lowest common denominator is like saying cartoons in the 80s were just one big action figure commercial. It's like, yeah, duh. Speaking of duh, I can only thank a God I don't believe in while giving the side eye to podcast hosts that I do believe in, that there's only one more of these shit shows to ruin my Sunday morning. Here's the thing. The good. There was actually a few jokes, maybe 3 or 4, that made me genuinely laugh. Also, common thread, Anna Faris is awesome. The bad. Those 3 or 4 jokes that made me laugh were spread out over 90 minutes of jokes so stupid, I swear they must have been written by a community college comedy team from downriver Detroit. That's a local joke. I'll explain. Downriver Detroit is the most methed out, white trash, proud to be rude and stupid place you could ever not wait to get out of.
North Florida.
It's like the Juggalo epicenter of the world.
Ooh.
Everybody there is like that Squeezy Jibs guy on Facebook that makes fun of like young white kids who are into rap. Scary Movie 4 is a fail, despite a few good laughs, and I finish this penance for a crime I didn't know I committed next week when I finish the Scary Movie franchise with Part 5. Until then, please pray for me. Be good, everyone.
You do God's work, Joe. I don't know which God, but one of them.
Here's the thing, real quick. 3 really good parody movies, right? Airplane.
Yep.
Black Dynamite.
Yep.
Spaceballs. Just off, just to name 3.
Sure.
All 3 of those have a plot line that are as serious as the movies they came from.
Yep.
The jokes are written around the situations. So this guy who used to be a pilot now has to fly the plane. Okay, but what if he has a drinking problem? What kind of drinking problem? He can't get him in his mouth. That's funny. I like it. And then, the rest of the story just keeps happening.
Yeah.
You can't stop for fucking Family Guy vignettes without somebody cutting to them. That's what I hated about these movies. There are really good, smart parodies out there. Deadstream was a fantastic parody of all of that YouTube culture type stuff. That was really good. It had a serious thing. I've been demonetized. I want to get my viewers back. I'm going to go to this supposed haunted house that I don't believe is haunted. Oh shit, it's haunted. And you write your stuff around that. And it's so disappointing to see parody used with the Scary Movie franchise and Meet the Spartans and superhero movie and all that. It's like,
yeah. Well, I mean, the first 2 Scary movies have that ongoing narrative. And I haven't seen anything. I haven't watched any of these recently, but I mean, it sounds like they do not hold up well.
But you can tell from the trailer that it's just a bunch of setups. It's movie 42 or 43 or whatever it was, just all over again. Anyway, I'll stop.
That's fine. All right. Let's see what Scott's got going on this week.
Are you good? Are you ready to go?
I'm good. Let's go.
I'm good. Let's go.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
With Reverend Scott. Hey, could you chill out? We're trying to make podcast magic over here.
Hey there, Bill and Chris. This is Reverend Scott, the assistant director of Outside the Cinema.
Assistant director is a respectable job.
Absolutely.
And this week, I'm going to talk about a modern horror movie from a franchise that really made me scream. Whatever could that be? Well, you and all the other Courtney Cox fans out there will just have to wait and find out after I talk about some other shit from last week, starting with The Caller. How about you tell us more about it, guys?
Malcolm McDowell shows up at her doorstep.
Yeah.
And what happens, Chris?
What happens is the same thing that happened in that other movie where people were too polite and couldn't say no to somebody in their house, and he ends up coming in. It's weird.
I mean, I guess that's weird a little bit, but not like inherently weird.
Yeah, you had to be.
What happened next, Bill? Did Malcolm McDowell say something weird?
Let me just call the tow truck, and I'll be out of your way.
Yeah.
Bark! Shut up!
Okay, now that is weird. How did Malcolm McDowell even know about Bark? And to make things even more strange, Bill kept changing their relationship status.
They're married, and they're like doing like a role play thing, but then something else would happen, and it would be like, no, it seems like they're torturing each other in a weird sort of way.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose you're implying that being married to Malcolm McDowell isn't torture? Chris, can you just explain what the fuck is going on?
somebody's trying to piece something together, but they both are trying to piece things together, but she has more information than McDowell thought she did, but this is happening over here. McDowell knows this, and
Okay, well, that didn't help me for shit. In fact, it made things worse. So much worse that I decided that I had to watch this movie on Tubi for myself. And so I did. And, well, fuck, you're right. I mean, I did hear some clues that in hindsight make much more sense, but all of them being from Malcolm McDowell, it was kind of hard to catch. I mean, there was remarks about his lack of vices and how temperatures affected himself and the girl differently. Then there's the whole point system he keeps mentioning.
That's a hint, but you'll never guess.
And you're right, I never did. And it kind of changed my whole opinion of this movie completely once everything is revealed. I mean, it went from like, I don't know, maybe a C+ to like a solid B+ in an instant. And for your restraint in not spoiling the whole reveal on the show, I give your review an A-.
Oh, good grade.
But do
for
you
us.
know what you didn't make me watch based on your review? Virtual Assassin. Gee, I wonder why. Could it have been due to the glowing movie comparisons that you made about a Virtual Assassin?
Which is in some ways the most amazing and also the most lazy Die Hard ripoff you've ever seen.
Oh my God, it rips off so many movies. So many.
They just watched Die Hard and were like, let's do this, but with computers.
Yeah.
But not really.
Nope.
Or how you gushed about its star actor?
Michael Dudikoff was struggling to keep his B-level action career alive.
I guess that's not completely fair, though, because in my opinion, you propped him up far more than he deserved.
Dudikoff, as a leading action hero, he's the best of the B guys. Like, he really is.
No, he's not, because he's not Bruce Campbell. He's not even Bruce Campbell's chin.
How dare you?
And I'll spare you the 25 minutes of Bill trying to get the trailer for Virtual Assassin to play and just play a small clip for you.
If one man possessed a supervirus, and with a single phone call could disrupt the entire Matrix.
That's right, Virtual Assassin did The Matrix 4 years before The Matrix did The Matrix. But it also did it much, much worse.
I don't think anything has aged worse in films than the way the internet and cyberspace was portrayed in the 90s.
Yeah.
The only thing it did right was predict which car brand was the most dependable.
It's the distant future where all of the cops drive Toyota Corollas.
Like I said, I did not watch Virtual Assassin, and so I give it a C-. But I give the review a B. And now for the important part. What have I been watching? And if your guess about a modern horror movie based on a franchise that made me scream was Scream 6.
Not.
Well, yes, I saw it. It's fine. Pretty people, lots of murders. Courtney Cox needs to stop. C+. But that's not what I'm going to review today.
Well, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
The real modern horror movie based on a franchise I want to review is Evil Dead Rise. Surprise!
And I thought I had figured the whole thing out, because I'm actually, I can be kind of good at that. And I was fucking wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. I was a little bit right, but not in the way I wanted to be. This had an interesting turn, I think is the best way to say it.
All right.
It's been 10 years since there's been an Evil Dead film in theaters. And the last one was not bad, but it didn't quite catch the magic of Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness for me. So this film had a lot to live up to. But did it? Well, Chris, did it?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Alyssa Sutherland is a spectacular deadite. She's finally brought back some of that evil chaos and black humor that was missing from the 2013 entry. And while that reboot was bloody and gory, it doesn't quite hold a candle to this movie, at least in my opinion. Evil Dead Rise keeps escalating the terror, providing chilling moments throughout. And on top of this movie looking amazing, the effects were very well done, like kinda incredible. There's a scene with a character that starts having a bloody nose, and that turns into both nostrils, and that starts just bloody flowing, and then it's from her eyes as well. And it like legit looked real. Like it just had to be practical in some way, but I'm not exactly sure how. Like I've never seen CGI that has ever looked that convincing. So I'm really not sure how they did it exactly. And she even like interrupted the flow with her fingers and it spread on her face and stuff. It was very well done. And every scene was just handled to that same amount of care and attention to detail as that. And the pacing was very much on point. The incorporation of the Book of the Dead was well done too.
Which is extraordinary, just not for the reasons that you think it would be.
Because in this film, the 2013 film, and the Bruce Campbell trilogy, the books all look different. And on records that were recorded in 1923 that the Sun finds and plays, there's mention of there being 3 books of the dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All of this makes a lot of... It actually is pretty brilliant the way it's put together.
On top of that, the voice telling us about the book and reading the passages that unleash the evil is none other than Bruce Campbell himself. I only found out about this afterwards, though. I would have never guessed at the time. I won't discuss too much more about the details of Evil Dead Rise because really I just want you all to go out and see it. It deserves a watch from any horror fan and especially fans of the Evil Dead franchise. And I give it a solid B+, bordering on an A-.
All right.
But I give the parents that sat behind me with their kindergartner all during this movie that left a literal pile of garbage in their wake in the theater an F.
You know what? It sounded like he was having a really terrible time. So
yeah, it didn't sound like it went well.
No.
Actually, you know what? I still had a great time. I didn't let that kid gasping every few minutes as the literal buckets of blood and guts and body parts flying around on the screen dampen my enjoyment of a great entry into the Evil Dead franchise. And neither should you.
You have good form.
I do. But I also have no more time for my segment this week. Unless that is, you want me to continue.
No.
So until next time, you don't want me to continue. Peace and love, guys. Holy Shit with Reverend Scott, the most confusing podcast segment there is.
Because we're given no information. We have no idea what's going on.
None.
That's because you don't deserve it.
What a dick.
All right, there we have it. Another week done.
Good.
Join the Patreon, patreon.com/outside the cinema. Follow Chris and I on social media at Cthulhu and at OTC Bill. Join our Facebook group. Just go into groups and search Outside the Cinema. And that's about it.
Yeah. I think so.
All right, everyone, try to stay out of the pollen.
Yeah.
Stay out of the pollen.
It's in the trees.
Stay out of the pollen.
Say hi to your mother for me.
Stay out of the pollen. Stay out of the pollen.
Those girls know it's all about
Stay out of the pollen.
surrounded